All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeannie Clark, and on behalf of the Web Checkout team, thank you for joining the second session of our annual User Symposium. So if you were with us this morning, or if you were not, Brittany Wood provided a demonstration of cleaning up your resource and resource type data with advanced imports. And I featured automating reports via Web Checkout data feeds and Google Data Studio. If you missed those sessions, we will be providing a recording of all sessions, including this one, next Monday. But for this session, we'll begin with AJ Ootman, who will highlight the new Facilities app to manage physical keys. This Facilities app is currently in beta version. Then John Solozano, our information security analyst and level 3 support tech, will review how we keep your data safe within the application and also with our hosted solution. So enjoy the show, and I'll turn it over to AJ. AJ?
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our seminar on the newest member of the WebCheckout app family, the Facilities application. We will follow up with a link to this recording and the sample files reviewed today. This application is designed to manage door keys for physical locations. The Facilities app was sponsored by the Facility Management Team at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The Facilities team at Franklin and Marshall used a homegrown system which no longer fulfilled their needs. Their search led them to companies without a tailored focus on higher education use cases, and their systems were too complicated and dense for their specific needs. The Facilities team at Franklin and Marshall were looking for a system that would track access for residential halls, dormitories, academic and administrative buildings, and event spaces. It would integrate with higher education specific systems such as Banner and Adirondack, and enforce accountability, decrease key misplacement, loss, and labor needs for key access. Finally, it would implement a simple and easy to track system to track physical keys assigned to students, staff, and groups on campus. Based on these specifications, we developed the Facilities app. With it, you can manage key-specific information, such as key hook, keyway, key cut, key sequence, and location information. You can also assign and check out keys to patrons from the Facilities app. And most importantly, as we understand this information is highly sensitive, all key-related information is only accessible from the Facilities app, and operators must be granted the Manage Keys capability to access this app and key information. Using the Facilities app also requires its own dedicated center, called a key center, and only one key center is allowed per organization. We also understand that those who manage keys may not have the need to log into their admin site of WebCheckout. So all the functions and information needed to manage keys are within the Facilities app. During today's presentation, we'll review Facilities terminology and navigation, create locations, key hooks, and keys, assign a key checkout, replace a key, and open the room for Q&A. Let's start with Facilities and key specific terms. All right, location represents every building and room on a campus map. Facilities locations are different from circulating resources of meta-class location in WebCheckout. Key hook, or hook for short, represents a record that represents the collection of keys that are all cut the same way and associated with locations or equipment locks, similar to a resource type or category of items. Key is a single serialized resource to unlock a location or equipment lock. All right. Key cut, seen from the horizontal profile of a key. It's defined by the peaks and valleys cut into a blank key that activate a lock's tumblers. Keyway is seen from the vertical profile of a key typically unique per lock manufacturer. For example, a Baldwin key won't fit a quick-set lock. Keys you can order by hierarchy, meaning a master key can open all the rooms in one hallway, and its child or change keys below it can only unlock individual rooms within that hallway. As you can see from the diagram, it illustrates here our key hierarchy. The grand or master key is a key that opens multiple locks and performs the functions of multiple subsidiary keys. There is no limit to the levels of hierarchy. We have a master key with grandmasters above it and grandmasters above that. Change key is a single-use key, such as a key that unlocks a specific room, as distinct from a master key. Child and parent key is the relationship between the different keys in a hierarchy. A parent key is one step above its child. All right, let's go into WebCheckout using. All right, now that we're in WebCheckout, using our apps menu in the top right-hand corner, provided you have provided your institution has a dedicated facility center and you have the managed keys operator capability, you can access facilities by clicking on the facilities icon. You can also access it directly by including -facilities at the end of your URL. From the home screen of the Facilities app, you have menus related to your key center that allow you to create hooks, keys, locations, and manage the circulation of these resources. These menus are duplicated by their icons in the hamburger menu, which is available while navigating through the application. As you can see, the icons correspond to their terms, and this hamburger menu will remain on every page of the application, so you can use it to quickly navigate to the related areas. Additionally, you can always hit the home button to return to this home screen. In the Facilities application, a location represents every building and rooms within those buildings on a campus map. Before we create our keys and hooks, we're going to create a location that our keys can unlock. Please note, the Manage Location Operator capability is required to create and edit locations. Additionally, the location, hook, and key information can all be created via our advanced import mechanism. However, for today, we're going to focus on how to create keys manually through the Facilities application. From the Locations Find screen, you can search by the location name, a location code, or parent location name. Locations can function in a hierarchy with parent locations housing sublocations. For example, if you have a room 300 that sits in the Curtis building, you can make room 300 a sublocation of the Curtis building. Let's create this location now. By selecting a location, it will bring up its location detail screen with information related to this location. To edit or add information to this location, select the 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. Let's add a new sublocation. From here, editable fields in the new location modal will populate. Name, location code, and location type will populate with a red box because they are required properties. The rest are optional fields. Location code represents the unique ID of the location property, and the location type determines the type of physical space it is. I'll add to the name Curtis Building Room 300 into the name field, and I'll add CB-300 into the short name field, CBRM300 into the location code, And for the location type, because this is a room that sits within the building, the Curtis building, I will select room as my type. Add any additional information, such as address, phone number, lock type, or coordinates. And when finished with that, hit continue. Now, if we can go back to the Curtis building detail screen by clicking on the parent location. And now we can see the sublocation 300 is included as a sublocation under the Curtis building. Now that we've created our location, we're ready to add a hook for a set of keys capable of opening that location. Key hooks are a category or a resource type that represents a collection of keys that are all cut the same way. It associates specific keys with the locations or equipment they will unlock. I'll go to the hook icon to enter the hook find page, where you can search by hook number or location in the key search. From the hook screen, you can search as mentioned by number or location. Additionally, you can see the hook type and location it opens. Hook types also run on a hierarchy, with a grandmaster being capable of opening multiple locks. The hierarchy is established by adding hooks in the master field during creation or edit. Grandmaster is a hook that is a master to at least one master hook. Master hook is a hook that is a master to at least one change hook. Change hook is a hook that is not a master. There can be an endless hierarchy of parent and child locks that the keys on these hooks open, with master being the parent of a change key and so on. Now let's add our new hook to Curtis room 300. We can create an equipment hook that manages equipment locks, whereas location hooks relate to location locks such as the Curtis building room 300. By hitting the new location hook, it will open the new location modal, where you can enter all of the information related to your key. In red are required fields: hook number, key cut, and key way. Let's add this information now. I'll add hook number CB300-01. For my lock type, I will retain it as cylindrical. And because it's under the Curtis building's hook number CB100, I'm going to add that as its master to create the hierarchy we just discussed. Right. I will add master CB100, cut 78954, Keyway Baldwin, which is the company that creates this style of lock, and the out of service date I'll place to the end of this. And finally, I'll hit continue. From the hook detail screen, we can see this information with current keys and related information. Additionally, we can see the master number listed on its detail screen. All right, well, it looks like I'm going to edit this hook real quick because it looks like the master didn't take, so I'm going to enter that once more and save. We'll enter it one more time. I think I might be entering it incorrectly. All right. Well, it's not taking for now, but normally it will display there as the master key that you can click on and go back to. All right. Great. So now let's look at our detail screen in depth. From this 3-dot icon, we can now edit the hook, rekey the hook, take out of service, add a key, add a location, or destroy the hook. Let's add a key that will be assigned to the Curtis Building's visiting professor, Lisa Turtle. All right. And now we're going to add the sequence 300, 01A. And I'm going to add a unique name that's going to cue me that Lisa has this key. So it's Lisa T300. And then I'll hit continue. Once the key is created, it will be listed under the current keys of the hook detail screen. We're now going to assign this key to Lisa. Now, there are two types of circulation related to assigning keys. Two types are checkout or reservation types, are keys that must be picked up and returned on a specific date. A good example of this is students picking up dorm keys and returning them at the end of the year. These keys are circulating. Assignment types are keys designated to a patron for an extended period of time, where there may or may not be an expected return date. A good example of this is faculty and staff who have their keys as long as they are employed. Because values like expected return time are optional, this flexibility gives the ability to project usage beyond the current loan. No receipt or email reminders will be sent for these, and these keys must be non-circulated. Let's navigate back to our facilities app and go to our outgoing keys tile. Right, so I'll go to my outgoing icon. All right, now I'm going to type in Lisa Turtle's name. Now, once you create a reservation or a type reservation, the key is ready to be picked up immediately or at a future date. Whereas checkout designates that a key has already been picked up. As mentioned on my slide, both relate to circulating resources. Whereas assignment is for non-circulating keys and will be assigned to Lisa. Pickup designates that this non-circulating resource has been given to Lisa. Then you must enter an exact hook and sequence number. Please note, due to security, the system will not guess or auto-populate values as they must be fully entered. All right, we're going to select our type assignment. All right. And then for our hook number, we'll select CB 300-01 and sequence number 300-01A. We'll also include an expected return date. With circulating keys, checkouts, and reservations, as mentioned earlier, this is a strict date. However, with non-circulating keys that are pickups or assignments, we are simply listing when we expect it will be returned. As Lisa, the visiting professor, will assign the key with an expected return date at the end of this calendar year. All right, and then I'll hit add. Now Lisa is ready for pickup. Once she comes to the office, you can, from this screen, select pickup and ensure the green banner confirms your action. Now, from the facilities application, we can see that Lisa has this key. We can go to our people icon and see that under the status has keys, Lisa will be listed under has keys. You have a few other statuses such as pending hook reservations, has locations, or all. Now, we can also see this in WebCheckout. So if I navigate back to WebCheckout, and I'm going to go to Lisa's patron record, I'm going to type in her name in the Find People Quick Snap. And then from her patron detail screen, I'll click on the Resources tab. And from the Resources tab, we can see that the key hook has been assigned to Lisa. All right, let's return to our facilities app. Now, let's imagine that it is mid-year and Lisa has lost her key. In this event, a key hook needs to be rekeyed for security purposes. So we'll navigate to our hook detail screen. All right, and I will type in the hook ID, CB300-01. I will select it. Right, and I'm just going to refresh the screen. Right. And now we see the key that Lisa has. She's already picked it up. We see the key cut and keyway. But again, I need to rekey this hook. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots and I'm going to select rekey hook. It will ask for a new key cut, which I'm going to enter now as 56-123. And the out of service date, which will be today, meaning that that former key cut will be going out of service today. And I'll hit continue. Notice that after rekeying the hook, the status of that key changes to obsolete. Now, after we've cut a new key for Lisa, we'll add this record to our hook. Select the 3 dots and again hit add key. We'll add a fresh sequence ID and a unique name, which you can create or let WebCheckout assign a value. So I will add sequence 300-01B, and under the unique name, Lisa T300, and we'll hit continue. All right, now that our key has been created, we'll need to return to our outgoing pane to assign this new key cut to Lisa Turtle. So let's navigate back to our outgoing pane. All right, and we'll type in Lisa's name again. Now, before we can give her a new key, we do need to return the current key that's out. Even though she lost it, we do need to tell the system that she is returning it. So I'll select return and hit return. All right. And now I can enter the new key information. So for type, I'm going to again select assignment. For return, I'm going to go to the end of the year. And for hook number, I'll do CB300-01 and sequence 300-01B, and then we'll hit add. All right. Going to try that one more time.
I'm sorry to interrupt, AJ, but when you created the ticket or the key, the B did not take, so just put -1.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Right. All right, we'll try it once more. All right, and I'll enter this. Great, and there it is ready for assignment. Thank you so much for catching that, Holly. All right, so now it is ready for pickup. Lisa has come in to pick up her key. I'll go ahead and hit select, and then we'll hit pickup. All right. Now let's imagine that the year is over and Lisa is bringing back her keys. Now we're going to navigate to our incoming pane. All right. And we'll enter the hook and sequence number. And we'll hit return. And now, as we can see from the green banner, Lisa's key has been returned. If we were to go to our Find People screen, notice under the status has keys, Lisa is no longer populating. All right. Let's go to our final screen. Now, with Lisa's keys returned, that concludes a basic overview of how to create locations, hooks, keys, and general circulation. To learn more about our facilities app, please see our documentation and email support@webcheckout.net to learn how you can add this application to your institution. Are there any questions?
Thanks so much, AJ. I do want to mention that the Facilities app is now available in beta version in the July 2021 release, which was just announced this week. So if you have facilities keys, location keys, or locks to your equipment, and you have all that key specific information, you want to manage that in Web Checkout, you certainly can.
All right, and just looking if there are any questions.
Abelay asked, this app is it is a module. It technically is a module.
So
go ahead, AJ.
To clarify, Abelay, I'm trying to start my video. There we are. To help clarify that question, so it is a module. However, it functions as a dedicated checkout center. So to add this to your organization, you do need to add a checkout center to it that will be your dedicated facility center. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so to clarify, if you have an enterprise license, or depending on your license type, this app could be already included with your support maintenance. So if you're interested in adding the facilities app, please email your account manager or support, and we can get that information to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question, Abelay. Are there any other questions today?
I have one more question, sorry. So I've noticed that you can add the information, a lot of information into each individual keys. But one of the other things that I've noticed is that, can you add attachments to each individual key profile? A reason why I ask is because certain keys have special cards that contain the credentials of the design of each individual key structure. So if a key has I don't know a lot of information about keys, but I do know that certain keys, in order to get it duplicated, you will need to have a special card that holds the specific unique information about the structure of the key in order to duplicate that key. Is it possible to add information, that type of information, into the individual keys, or at least to the key hooks?
I see. That's a great question. So presently, the available fields for keys would be your sequence and your unique ID. Now, in terms of the hook, so I'm just navigating back to my hook detail screen, and I'm going to go to edit hook, just so you can see the present available fields, which are hook number. If you have a master key, that will link to the master key, a unique identifier and a manufacturer name, as well as a lock type. Okay, additionally, we also have our key cut and key weigh that are created when you create the hook. Now, beyond that, of course, you could put additional information in the notes But in terms of additional fields beyond that, I don't believe that that is available at this time. Jeannie or anybody else from our support team, do you know if any additional fields will be added in the near future?
I won't say no, but it was not part of the original spec or it wasn't a requirement. The fields that AJ mentioned, that's the secret ingredient to cut the keys for F&M. But if this is a module that you're interested in using, and as you use it, you find that there are additional features or fields that are required, it's definitely possible to add additional information.
I see. Thank you.
Great question. Okay, great. It looks like at this time, as Jeannie mentioned, there's not that attachment function yet for keys. Any other questions today?
Oh, sorry. I think there was a question there. Sorry, give me one.
It's okay. So the question, AJ, I'll read it off. Is there an activity page to assigning keys? For example, documenting who reserved the keys, assigned it, etc. So logging.
I see. Yeah. And is that to help me understand? Is that meaning for the operator who reserved the keys? Is that correct, or are you wondering where to find the people that have reservations out? For the operator. So presently in the people menu, we can see who has current reservations and checkouts. I don't believe we have that operator record available from the facilities app. Does anyone from our customer care team know if that is available?
Yeah, AJ, the in-web checkout in the system events, there is logging of activity from the facilities app.
All right, thank you, Jeannie.
Yep, so if you change your checkout center to the key center,
There we are. Great, thank you. All right, and as you can see from this search screen, you are able to adjust the search screen to see those events that happen in the key center. Yes, thank you for your question.
One more question about the keys. Once the key has been assigned or picked up, will this information be relayed through the email messages to the specific patron?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on the type. So for example, if it is a checked out key or a reserved key, yes, that will be linked through email messaging. If it's an assigned key, meaning it's a non-circulating key given to, say, a faculty member for the length of the year, that is not linked to our email messaging.
Thank you.
Did that answer? Absolutely. All right, and I'm just pulling this up to showcase that, but are there any other questions while I'm doing that? So for example, as mentioned with reservation checkout, those two fields are linked to our email messaging module, whereas assignment and pickup are for non-circulating assigned keys.
One more question. The keys, are they, do the patrons have ability to reserve keys through the portal?
That's a great question. Presently, that functionality is not available, and that's in large part due to security purposes.
I see.
Yeah, great question though. And that may be, you know, a potential feature request we can submit following the user symposium. So thank you.
Yeah, the use case for this application, again, it was the facilities team. They needed a simple solution to manage all their keys that they give out to, you know, staff as well as students for their dormitories. So it's not for, like a one-time use for a room and then to return it in the short term. It's long-term access to secure locations.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm wondering, in the previous demonstration you made, where if a patron loses a key, it has to be returned, correct?
Yeah, so to help clarify that, what you do is you would rekey the hook as I showed, which will make you give a new key cut, because of course, you're going to rekey all of your key sets for security reasons. But you do need to list it as return, because the system doesn't know, you may be rekeying it for other reasons. So you do need to return that key, even if you don't physically get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there a possibility that you guys could add another action command where it says return within the parentheses saying lost, so that way it's more clarity for the people that are looking into the data to reference?
Absolutely. And I'm going to note both of those feature requests. So thank you, Adelaide.
There's a notes field too, right, AJ, that you could note that it was lost.
Yes. Yeah. Presently, there is a notes field. So for example, let me just go back to my hook number. Back to it. So I'm going to go back to that obsolete key. Just let me refresh my screen 1 second. All right. I'm going to click on that obsolete key. So if I hit edit key, well, let me go back to the hook, sorry. From here, if I edit the hook, I could place in the note, obsolete lost by Lisa. So there is a present workaround. However, I think that is a good feature to add that as an automatic dropdown.
And Asa, this is unrelated to keys, but related to web checkout. Is there a lost status in the base equipment system? No, there is not, but this is something that we do expect to eventually have in web checkout, to include a full decommissioning or full life cycle for inventory, from receiving to purchasing to receiving to loss to retired. So stay tuned. That will be in web checkout eventually, managing the full life cycle of your inventory with these statuses.
Great, thank you for that question, Asa.
Okay, great. Thank you, AJ. Thanks for showing us all, including the web checkout team too, how the facilities app works. Again, if you guys are interested in adding this to your web checkout, please contact support or your account manager and we can provide you additional information. All right, and now we will turn it over to John Solorzano. He is our information security analyst and level 3 tech support. I'm sure you've all worked with him for upgrades or for troubleshooting, and he will be reviewing how we keep your data safe. John?
All right, thank you, Jeannie. Let's see if we can get this all shared. Okay, can you all see the screen here?
We sure can.
Awesome, perfect, thank you. Well, hey everyone, my name is John Solorzano, and I'm an information security analyst and support technician, just like Jeannie said, here at WebCheckout. Today I'm going to be presenting a brief overview of our hosted service and specifically how our team works to keep you all safe on our hosted instances. So let me just grab some things here. All right. As a quick aside, I'm happy to be able to put some, at least some voices to many of you all. I've been lucky enough to work on tickets with you, so it's a treat to be able to say hello and see some of those screenshots of you guys. So it's a pleasure to to be able to introduce myself. Okay, well, why security matters? Let's start off with a philosophical kind of big picture question. Why does security matter? Without a doubt, I'm sure many of you have had to sit in on a training or a seminar where you've heard at least a little bit about cybersecurity and why it's important. And it is important. And I love those kinds of trainings, and they're the highlight of my week, but don't worry, we're gonna keep it short and brief, and there's not gonna be a quiz at the end of this presentation, so you don't have to take any notes. We'll leave the in-depth discussion of asymmetric encryption and X509 certificate signing for you guys to discuss at dinner with friends and family, or at least that's what we do at home. We were talking about risk management strategies at dinner with the boys. So, we love it that way. Just kidding. What is cybersecurity? So before we get into why it matters for you as a WebCheckout user, we can ask, what is it? What is cybersecurity in general? Per CISA, cybersecurity is the art of protecting networks, devices, data from unauthorized access or criminal use, and the practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. So in other words, in general, cybersecurity is making sure that all of your systems and devices that you use in day-to-day work or at home are kept safe from others who shouldn't access them, and especially that the data on those machines is kept private, stays accurate, so it isn't manipulated in any ways it shouldn't be, and is available for you when you need it. CISA, by the way, is the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They're one of the major federal groups that puts out security bulletins to keep organizations in the know on latest cyber threats and things like that. So why does it matter? Now, we know we have this definition, but why does it matter to you as a WebCheckout administrator or operator or patron? On big picture, at a national and global scale, cybersecurity threats and attacks are on the rise. Over the past few years, there's been a significant increase in the number of cybersecurity threats across all industries. I'm sure you've even come across some report here or there about a cyber attack, either in the paper or on the news. Actually, a recent report put out by the IC3, which is an FBI group that monitors internet crime, estimates that over the past 5 years, there have been about 13.3 billion US dollars in losses due to cyber and internet crimes. 2020 alone was in the estimated range of about 4.2 billion US dollars. And that data, as it's coming from the FBI, keep in mind that's for crimes reported in the United States or within the jurisdiction of the United States. So global numbers are in the trillions of dollars of losses per year. So there's definitely a financial cost, and it can be costly in that way, but it's also costly in reputation as well. Security events like data breaches can lead to significant loss in trust of your organization, either by your clients or students or people that you work with. So because of that high cost, securing data is essential. As you're either an educational institution or business organization who controls user data, there's definitely a responsibility to protect that data. At WebCheckout, as a third party who may also have access to that data, we're also keenly aware of the responsibility for protecting it. So again, coming back to why this matters to you, in light of the value of the data that's entrusted to your organizations and how you use that data in WebCheckout, being aware of the risk is an important part of maintaining your WebCheckout installation. So administering that and kind of being aware of all the components that revolve around that. If you're a WebCheckout admin or operator, included in the many responsibilities that you already have, be it organizing your inventory or tracking down that last late return, is also the responsibility to be aware of the value of your data on your instance and to make sure that appropriate steps and measures are taken to secure that data. So a large part of the work of securing that data involves some of the technical procedures and best practices required to run the servers that actually run a WebCheckout installation. So now we're all sufficiently kind of concerned about the great responsibility on our shoulders. We can talk about some positives here. We'll talk about where WebCheckout is coming from, when we consider security and how we prioritize it. While we're not primarily a security company, you're working with us because we're the best checkout software out there. We will always prioritize security for the things that are in our control so that we can continue to make your WebCheckout experience as secure as possible. That'll include things like prioritizing security from within our business and applying security best practices to our company's internal assets. It also means things like being security minded throughout the development lifecycle for the application, from writing code to testing to deployment. And in the case of WebCheckout's hosted service, it includes deploying and maintaining secure infrastructure for our hosted clients. So I'll speak on more specifics to that in a moment. But at WebCheckout, we endeavor to prioritize an active, security-driven approach in the work we do and the products we release. The tech landscape is always changing, and there's never going to be a point where anyone reaches perfect security, but we do strive for constant improvement. Okay, here we are finally at the star of the show. What do we actually do to keep you safe and to keep your data safe? We'll go over the general shape of our security program, and then I'll highlight some key technical pieces. We'll start off with some policies and procedures and frameworks, the most fun part of security, right? Policies and procedures. Our information security policy is the backbone of our security program. It dictates the security strategy for our organization. It drives the creation of our procedures and standards, and kind of shapes the general view that we have on security as an organization. Our policy is based on the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is a framework put out by the National Institute of Standards and Technology in order to assist organizations in managing risk. The NIST is well known and well regarded, and they put out a ton of documents to help organizations become more secure. The framework also sets some groundwork in meeting requirements set in many regulations and legislation. So things like HIPAA, FERPA, GLBA, that kind of thing. That'll put us as a company in a position to assist you, our clients, in conforming to those requirements as necessary. Along with the NIST framework, we also review and consider well-known security assessments like the HEC-VAT for educational institutions and CAIQ for cloud vendors in the creation of our technical procedures. So in other words, we're building on known foundations and standards as we develop our own robust security program. Okay, so what technical controls do we offer to meet these directives and goals set in our policy? Thank you for asking. It's like you're reading my notes. I love it. Thank you. So our hosts, we'll start on the host side of things. Oops, sorry. On the host side of things, for our hosts, we have a few things that we do to keep the machines secure and safe and your data secure. For our hosts, we have a regular and consistent cadence for patching and updating both our production and internal servers. So think of that as like immediately running your Mac OS or Windows updates. Every time you see the little notification, we click on that and run it and do the upgrade every time. That's kind of what we do with our hosted services, with our hosted servers, to make sure that our systems are always up to date. We also use configuration management tools to deploy new instances with known and tested configurations to and hardened settings. So in other words, every time we build a new server, we use consistent blueprints and we build security into those blueprints by doing things like limiting open ports and running only essential services on the hosts. And you can think of ports on a server as like a door that someone can knock on to access your machine. We also use key-based SSH connections for all of our hosted instances. Or in other words, when we are using encrypted secure means of connecting to your server, and only WebCheckout team members with the right keys can log in to any of our hosts. By only using keys to connect to a server, we get around many of the issues you might run into when you use password authentication. We also have a intrusion detection system put out by CrowdStrike that's deployed on all of our servers. So that's a tool that will warn us if there's ever any activity taking place on our servers that shouldn't be. It allows for 24/7 monitoring by a team of security analysts who will notify us if there should ever be a security incident on any of our machines. We also perform regular port and vulnerability scanning on all of our servers. So you can think of that as kind of like knocking on doors for each of our servers to see if any are open that shouldn't be, or if there are new ways of kind of cracking those doors open that we can prevent against. And of course, if we do ever come across any issues in our scanning, we prioritize remediating them as quickly as possible, just to make sure that everything is under control. As a peek, a little surprise peek as to what's coming down the pipeline, we're actually currently working on a project to deploy tools to enable continuous vulnerability scanning and reporting, which to me is very cool. That'll take us from regular periodic scanning to continuous up-to-the-minute scanning and reporting on the state of all of our machines, which is really cool. A little earlier, I also mentioned something about legislation and regulations. So one of the technical ways that we deal with those big picture concepts is by deploying hosts to appropriate data regions in keeping with data regulations. So if a client is coming to us and requires that their data reside in a specific region or within specific borders, we can deploy a server and backup server to a data center within that region to help comply with regulations. So a brief coverage of some of the ways that we secure our servers on a more using technical controls, so a little bit more technical. But do keep in mind that someone should always be responsible for completing these kinds of tasks. So be it patching or updating or scanning, someone is always responsible or should always be responsible to do that. With WebCheckout's hosted service, the WebCheckout support team takes on that challenge to free up your IT teams for other work and projects, which we all know there's always work and projects to do. Now we'll talk a little bit about the application side of things. One of the biggest components to keeping your data available and up to date is our remote backup system. Every WebCheckout instance has backups of the database taken every morning, and that applies to hosted or on-premise hosts. So those are servers run by your organizations and teams. Just like the on-prem hosts, these backups are kept on the server itself, but with our hosted service, a copy is also encrypted and sent to a redundant backup server in the appropriate data region. So by doing that, we're making sure that we have secure copies of all of your data, daily copies, in case we're ever in a recovery kind of situation. I also wanted to call out just a few places where we prioritize security that apply to both on-prem and hosted instances. So we're really proud of a lot of the work that our development and operation teams have been accomplishing. You've already seen a lot of that work today with a lot of the new awesome features and tools that development has been hard at work. So shout out to them. They're always making the application more awesome. But our technical operations and QA teams, we never forget the QA team, have also been hard at work to bake security into our builds and testing and deploy processes as well. So I want to always make sure to give them a shout out because they are the unsung heroes. As one example, excuse me, we've always run continuous testing on our code, but we're now excited to be able to include security testing as part of our test cycles. So for every updated build of the application, the team will run automated tests as well as manual tests that will check all kinds of things. But with this security update, we will run automated tests that will check against the OWASP top 10 list. So we love acronyms in security. OWASP is a well-known and respected organization that champions web application security. And that top 10 list is a collection of the top 10 most common security issues and vulnerabilities in web applications. So in other words, for every code update now that we push and build, we'll run automated tests against those builds that check for security issues after our changes. So that's really cool too. I do also just want to mention some authentication options that are available to all of our users. So we always have LDAP and SSO as a means of authentication available to you in the application. And we also do by default force TLS encryption for all connections to and from the application, just to make sure that host data is transferred securely. So again, brief coverage, but we're always happy to answer questions as they come up with anything security related or just technical in general. So we have here our long-term goals. As I mentioned earlier, technology is always changing and new threats are reported every day, new tools come out every day, new processes for remediating threats are released every day and kind of made available to us. So in line with our overall posture and vision set by our policy, the WebCheckout team aims to stay up to date on the latest trends and best practices, as well as aware of what's going on in the security world. There's always something going on, and we do our best to stay on top of that. The benefits of prioritizing awareness and just being up to date on these things flow right back into our security policy via regular review and updates of our standards and procedures. So we kind of take all of that back into what we do in terms of the technical controls as well as the big picture goals. We also have some really cool goals for the future, including addressing some of the more common security requests that we receive. And those are third-party scanning and performing pen testing on our networks and applications. So if scanning is kind of like jiggling a doorknob to see if it opens, pen testing would be like taking a crowbar and then a flamethrower and then trying to blow the door open and trying to get in there. So that is a little bit more of an advanced means of testing the security of the application and our networks. And we're in the early stages of creating programs to address those requests. Okay, mercifully for you and for me, we are at the end of this magical security tour. But I will leave this on the slides. You can actually take a look at a copy of our information security policy in our documentation. And our team is always happy to answer security related questions or questions about moving to hosted, technical questions. We're always happy to help. You can always reach out to us at support@webcheckout.net. And then putting my support hat on, I also do want to call out again our release of the July 2021 version of WebCheckout. It includes a ton of improvements and new functionality, and we're really proud of it. So you can always reach out to support@webcheckout.net to schedule your upgrade. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And we'll leave it open for any questions that might be out there for security related stuff. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, John. There was a lot of information, some information that even our teams internally said, wow, this is so cool. I didn't know we did all of this. But yes, we do take security very seriously. And we wanted to share all the hard work our support and technical operations team do behind the scenes to keep your data secure. So any questions for John about our hosted solution? Okay, we'll take that. You covered a lot of information, so
Yes.
Very thorough. But if you are interested in our hosted solution, John, if you don't mind going to the next slide, there's no better time than now to make that move. We are offering a 25% off move to hosted. And along with that, we're also offering 25% off adding any modules, adding new departments and data feeds. So if you're interested in making any moves or adding any additional products or modules, reach out to your account manager or support for additional information. And join us tomorrow. If there's no further questions or if there's no discussion, we can actually talk about tomorrow's session. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions or anything that you want to bring up either to web checkout or even with one another? Okay, great. Yes, go ahead.
I do have one question. We've noticed in the system, whenever we look at all of our allocations from the beginning of the birth of the system to the current date, we've noticed that allocation numbers, for some reason, the system skips allocation numbers. Not that it doesn't miss any allocations. It's just one thing we've noticed that it is somewhat chronological, but it is not digit by digit chronological in the allocations that it creates.
Yep. So anytime you go into the timeline scheduler, you're actually creating, it's actually starting an allocation. So that CK number will be generated. So there's there's a placeholder in the database. You might not actually commit it. You probably don't even know that it's even been created, but it's there. It's chronologically in the database, but there isn't an active allocation to it. So if you are ever in the timeline scheduler, it will kind of put a placeholder for an allocation, but it's again possible that you didn't create a checkout or reservation. That's the non-technical way of explaining it and how I understand it, but it's in the database, but you didn't actually create a checkout. So
so to my understanding, the system is creating CK numbers chronologically, digit by digit, but certain ones, because they're not being completed fully through its process, that information gets deleted, or does that get withdrawn?
It doesn't get deleted. It's just anytime that you're in the allocation detail, like you're in a new or timeline scheduler, it's just there's a placeholder because there's a session that's been started, but it doesn't actually create a checkout or a reservation. You're not actually saving it, but there is one in the database anytime you go into the timeline scheduler or a new allocation screen.
I see. Okay. And then another question we've noticed in the system is when our clients or our patrons use the portal to submit requests, currently the way how we have our system set up is that we have a blast email to notify if there's any requests submitted through a portal. That data, we couldn't find that data being recorded anywhere in the system logs, where the system triggering the portal notification email saying that there has been new requests submitted through portal. And one of the reasons why it makes it's important for us is in case there's any kind of issues that we need to troubleshoot, our best tool is to refer to the system logs. And we couldn't find any of the data being recorded for the portal notification emails.
And so that would be a support ticket. So if you could email support, or we can have your account manager follow up. Actually, it'd be best if you can send us an email with the CK ID of a reservation that was made through the portal, but the email didn't go out or there was no log of it, and then we can look further into that.
Okay. Yeah, the email goes out. The system is all okay, but it's just the data of the activity doesn't get reported for the portal notification emails to the operators.
Okay, we'll have to.
Yep,
We'll
I will send out the support ticket for that.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Evelyn. Yeah, we can take a closer look into that. Okay. If no further questions, let's do a review of tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we will have customer presentations. So you won't hear us talking, and instead you'll hear from Jake Casson. He's from Boston University, and he'll kick off day 2 with their custom reservation portal, which they created, which he and his team used the WebCheckout API to create. So those of you who have been emailing us and interested in the API, this is a great time to see what other schools or what Boston University and Jake are specifically using the API for. And then followed by Cecile Sisson from Northwestern University. She will be sharing her inventory organization and student staff training best practices. I believe she'll also be giving us a tour of her media center. And then wrapping up our customer presentation and our user symposium will be Colleen Bittinger from Cuyahoga Community College. She will be showing us how she and her team use WebCheckout to manage all of the college's static, non-circulating equipment. So 3 great different use cases, and I'm really interested, we're all really interested to hear their stories. Okay, so last call for any questions or discussion. All right, great. Well, thank you all again for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Same Zoom meeting link. Again, recordings of all 4 sessions or 2 sessions today will be provided next Monday. You have our contact information. As John mentioned, please email us with any questions or to schedule your upgrade. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.